Well, good morning, friends. It's a little bit chilly today. I don't know what happened, but I can hear these machines down here, so we'll run down here and check it out. Well, they're back at it, but I've got to run up here and feed the chickens before I can do anything else. Well, now that I've got that done, I've got in mind going down there to Jennifer's house. We've got to take and trim out that block wall with some vents for her crawl space. So I'll meet you down there. Put another board up on the top on the inside and pull that top back to it. Okay. 16 1/8. Well, that ought to work. We'll know in a minute. Okay. Now, how about that, friends? Huh? Now we need to make us a handle. We've got to put us some door stops back there, and we'll have it made. Well, I managed to find a little door handle. Came off of a cabinet, and I made them a little lock right there. But yeah, that little door is kind of cool. Works really good. It's just a bunch of spare pieces that I had laying around because they didn't have anything. Wasn't no point in going and buying anything. They're going to paint that, and then when we stucco the brick right here, then we may kind of cover over that frame just a little bit. But we've got all of the vents put in. I guess you can see we've got vents put in down here just as they started backfilling, because you know, before we didn't have to stoop down as low, but yeah, we got them put in just in time. And we got to do something with that tank right there, because when that dirt comes, I'm going to have to elbow up and come down. So that'll probably happen next week, because once this is done, they're going to set a new tank back there, come up here with a line and connect to that. Guess what? My son called and said he's flying in tomorrow. Well, friends, I thought that I would show you something that we kind of threw together over the weekend that really tickled the death out of Jennifer. So check this out. Yeah, that was just kind of a makeshift little garden there. She's got some peppers and tomatoes and some cucumbers planted. She actually had those plants for about a week and a half and didn't have any place to put them. I'll show you where they're at. It's actually right here where I've been burning wood. So I'm going to have to find another spot to take care of all of that lumber that I stacked up there. But I didn't want her plants to go bad. I thought, you know, I can always move where I burn something, and that was the easiest place for me to scratch up the ground, because I didn't want to start something up there by the cabin, because I think we're going to have to take that section that I had those raised beds if I'm going to make a storm shelter, because the other area that I had previously dug out, I think is going to be a much better place to put a underground tank when we hook to the gutters over here on the cabin, to be able to catch the rainwater. So I've decided to move the storm shelter over here on this side where I had the gardens. That's the reason I haven't done anything to it, because I'm going to be digging a hole back in there, and I'll just pull all of that out at one time. That actually made the most sense, since all of the guttering ran in that direction, and I was going to have to try to put both of those, you know, storm shelter and a tank inside one room, and that just wouldn't work out very well. So I decided to have two different locations, and they're both close to the cabin, so that in the event that, you know, something did happen, that we would have a place that we could go. But I think before I do that, that we're actually going to have to get together and build Jennifer some sort of a shed where she can take the stuff out of the garage from when they moved everything and be able to pull their vehicles in there. So we're going to have to build some sort of a shed probably before I start on that. So that's something else that's going to have to be done. We've got to get the metal ordered to go down up here, because so far we've been just using this black roofing paper, but it's time to go ahead and get that covered. Well, Patrick and I are heading down there to Jennifer's because I need to take some measurements for some material that we're going to need in order to build the sliding barn door. And then she's got a vent up over her stove that she wants us to put some like outdoor shakes on. So that's what we're going down to measure. Let's see, 36 by at least 32. That should be 82. Yep, 32 by 82. Well, we thought while we were down this far we would look for another log that we could throw on the mill. Well, friends, I've got one log in there that would probably be good enough to cut up for 2x10s, but these others more than likely will get cut up into sheathing. There is one tree right there that Patrick pointed out that needs to come down because it's going to fall down sooner or later, but that would make quite a few 2x10s right there. So I did mention to Patrick, we've still got logs over here where we clear cutted for Jennifer's power line. We've still got that maple laying there, but I've got these good sized poplars right here. Got that one. We've got this one. I've got that laying there that's already been cut. Also got black walnut, two of them laying right there, one there and one over there that I'm going to have to drag out at some point. Okay, so after inspecting those logs a little bit closer, I've only got two of them that are 12.5 foot, but that would make about 8 2x10s for us. So we're going to go up here and count and see how many we actually need. Well, it looks like we're going to need about 12 of them. So I can account for possibly 8 down there. I've got 2 up here, so we're going to have to find one more log to finish the floor joists for this side. Then once we mill out the sheeting to go on this floor, I'll have a free walk space inside and out, or on both sides is what I'm saying. And then I can begin to kind of put my tools where they need to go. You know, Patrick just reminded me that I've got a bunch of trees that I laid down because of some threats and some windstorms up here behind the cabin. And what really freaks him out is, he said to be sure and tell everybody that it looks like a jungle up here in the summertime. But he said, Dad, I don't remember it being that thick.
No, I don't. Video may not do it justice, but I can assure you it's very much tropical vibes around here.
But it wouldn't take a whole lot for us to try to snake one down in front of the kitchen and go around the edge of the yard, since I worked so hard to try to get the grass growing out here that we could probably bring down. I don't think we would need more than 2.
Probably 2.
and we could bring those down, and then if we needed more, there's plenty up there where we could cut that up into sheeting and actually finish this second part. So I'm glad he reminded me. You know, I tell you what, friends, it's lucky that I make it home. Sometimes I can remember where I live, but yeah, good idea.
There's trees down all around this place. It's hard to remember everything.
Well, good morning, friends. Patrick is already down there at Jennifer's sneaking him a cup of coffee, I think. And what we're getting ready to do is make the barn door for her kitchen. So I'm gonna run down there and get me a cup of coffee and we'll get started. All right, guys, we're trying to put this together. We want to be 1 3/8 inches, which that's what that is. So, and then we decided for that to roll right there, that would give me plenty of room to bring the door up here and be able to get these bolts into the framework of the door. So we've got this set where we're going to be. We're going to mark these holes because we've got to drill, and these will mount on the back side of that. Now what we did is we just took the edge of that right there, like so, and we just pulled it down to meet that right there. And that's where our holes are going to be marked. Now we're going to put this piece on and basically do the same thing. Here's a hole. Here's a hole, and here's a hole. Well, friends, nothing like just getting started and forget your 6-foot level. So I'm heading back up the top of the hill to get it. All right, we're just going to nail it temporary because I need to actually screw this in. So we'll put a couple of nails to hold it. Okay, we're anchoring this 1x to the wall. Got it? Yep. Alright, let me get it down here. All right, guys, we're fixing to glue her up here. Slide that one down. Right there. All right. Okay, and then we got this one. Almost there. Second. Well, I'm finishing up here, friends. This one was a little bit loose on this end, so I'm going to have to fix the pole, I think. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry overnight. Then we can sand this down and we're going to stain it. And then we'll be able to hang our hardware on it once we trim it down to size. And hopefully finish the door and have a really nice pantry door. Well, friends, if you want to see what the door is going to look like when it's done, you're going to have to stay tuned till next week because we've got to run to town for some parts. So thanks so much for stopping by. We certainly do appreciate it.
And we look forward to seeing you back up at the cabin again next time.
Hey, that was my line.
I'm sorry.